following entry was written in the final pages of the logbook, found inside the ruins of Tower 9, National Park, 2016. Day 1.
I arrived this morning. A chopper dropped me at Tower 9 just past dawn. The pilot left without a word. I stood there like a tree, with just the manual in my hands. On the flip side, at least, I've trained for this. The long weeks of isolation, watching for wildfires, logging data, and just me in the trees. The tower creaked like an old spine in the wind. The forest stretched endlessly in all directions. I felt at peace.
Day 5.
I made contact with other towers via short-distance walkies. There's Collins from Tower 2, Martinez from Tower 4, and an older guy named Harper up in Tower 1. They all sound friendly. I don't know, but sometimes their voices just cut out, or sound like it's repeating, I guess. Martinez or someone laughed for too long, uncomfortably long, and it kind of echoed strangely. I think it was Martinez. Base hasn't checked in. The manual says to expect intermittent contact, but nothing at all. Strange.
Day 8.
I saw something today I can't explain. The tree line looks a bit different today, like it has shifted and looked like a bad edit. The trees were not the same pines I got used to watching over. I blinked and they were back to normal. I'm tired, maybe. Harper was talking about a set of teeth floating around in the trees. I asked what he meant. Never mind. What the hell does that mean? Crazy old man ramblings.
Day 10.
Last night I woke to a red sky. Everything outside the window looked hellish red. Trees looked like burnt bones. Something was howling below. I dared not step outside and stayed in the tower. I was bathing in sweat and I don't know when I fell asleep. When I looked out the window in the morning, everything was normal again. Was I dreaming last night? Just after a usual day. The radio buzzed and Harper's voice came through.
Are you having bad dreams?
I was about to respond with my experience.
Are you having bad dreams?
Then he repeated again.
Are you having bad dreams?
Hey, old timer, I hear you clear. What's up?
Are you having bad dreams?
What the hell, man? Just stop.
Are you having bad dreams?
I turned off the radio, and yet, this was seriously way too disturbing.
Day 12.
Tonight, the tower is floating. There's no ground below. Trees have vanished. Everything is gone. Just the black void. I stepped out of the tower. There was no breeze. Just nothing. Like the last time something piss-inducing happened. The morning was indeed normal. What the hell is happening? I reported it to the base, but haven't got a response yet. Come to think of it, I haven't heard anything from the base since the start of my arrival at the tower. Maybe others might know what's the deal with this strange phenomenon.
Day 14.
Bad idea. It was a f***ing bad idea. In a seemingly routine conversation, I casually slipped in the things I am experiencing. This created an explosion over the radio. The voices from the other towers are arguing now, blaming each other for things I haven't faced yet, I guess. Colin says Martinez tried to kill him. Harper says I'm stalking him every night. Martinez accused Harper of giving a death threat over the radio. The war of words went on for a while, then it faded to silence. After a while, it started again. The moment I began to make sense of what was actually going on over the radio, my legs felt like jelly, and I was about to collapse. They were saying the exact same things like the previous, and it repeated word to word.
Day 17.
Nobody has spoken over the radio since then. Colin contacted me today.
The hell, man? What's going on? Listen, James. I find you the most sane among the bunch. Can I trust you?
Sure.
I wasn't really sure.
Listen, man. Strange things are going on with me. I am seeing weird things which shouldn't exist. Hell, I can't even comprehend what I saw in the dreams. I am not even sure they are dreams. I get you. I have been. Could you make it to my tower? I have hurt my leg, and I'm barely walking. I know a way out, but I need your help.
I will leave tomorrow morning for your tower.
Do not contact anyone else, James, and leave behind everything along with your radio.
The radio went silent after that. I asked him what his plan was, but I got no response. Should I trust him?
Day 18.
I left early in the morning for Tower 2, Colin's tower. Despite what Colin said, I packed up supplies for the day and left for my tower. I followed the map and my compass towards Tower 2, but what should have been a 2-hour journey seemed never-ending. I walked for a couple of hours, and then the tower came into view from the trees. I reached up close, only to discover my tower, Tower 9, the tower I was assigned to. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, but it was real. I followed the map and the compass, but somehow it was all wrong.
Day 19.
It's past dawn and I am now leaving this hellhole for good. I don't care which direction I need to walk, but I will walk 100 miles if that means escape. I might have walked a couple of hours, marking north as my direction, which might lead to the base station. The pine forest looked wrong, and yes, the trees had teeth, like human teeth. I cringed at the sight of it, but then everything began tilting and rotating. I can't even explain in words what exactly happened, but the next minute, everything was upside down. My mind snapped and I began running wildly, not caring to look at the map or the compass. My feet stepped on an invisible floor in the sky below me as I ran. I emerged from the trees, my vision blurry. I faintly saw a tower again, and I knew where I was. Exactly where I started.
Day 22.
I am literally going crazy. I destroyed the radio, which was my last contact line with the base. Collins called last night on the walkie. He said he made it to my tower somehow, and he's standing outside. But when I looked, there was no one there.
Day 25.
I stopped using the walkie, but I still hear those voices, sometimes in the walls, sometimes inside my head. I'm either losing my mind, or this place is not bound by reality. Maybe both. Maybe this place was never a forest at all. I don't know what day it is. The sun rises and sets at random now. Sometimes the sky splits open and I see massive eyes staring down at me. I have tried many times to escape, but somehow I am back at my tower. I can't escape anymore. I have accepted my fate. I don't trust the tower. I don't trust the landscape. I don't trust myself. I am writing this because if someone finds this, please tell my family I am sorry. And if you are a fire watcher, assigned to Tower 9 at National Park, please refuse the offer.
No further entries. Logbook recovered near debris site. Coordinates
4 miles from the pickup.
degrees north,
4 miles from the pickup.
degrees west. Tower 9 officially listed as decommissioned since 1996.
If you have enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more stories.
I am a fire watcher. Upon moving into my station, I found the following pages typed on my desk. I am not the author of the following. I am transcribing exactly what I found. Dated 1989. I've been located here for 185 days, according to my calendar. I'm stationed up in the northwest of the United States with 2 other guys, Clark and Thomas. 185 days. That's 5 days longer than our stint here should have been. Normally, they rotate us out every 180 days. We were supposed to be picked up by helicopter 5 days ago, but it still hasn't come. I started writing this logbook, journal, whatever, because we're overdue for our evac. Or so we think. Maybe we messed up the calendar somehow. It's possible. Our main radio stopped working on day 179. Get up! I see smoke! Bleary-eyed, I saw Clark standing over my bunk. I could see the orange slits of light reflecting on his torso, signaling to me that it was the early morning. Come on, Teddy, get up! Smoke! Smoke, huh? I said, still half delirious. Yeah, smoke. A really small stream of it, maybe a mile southeast. His eyes were wide and brighter than the sunlight on his uniform. I pulled myself out of the bottom bunk and wandered over towards the window. I didn't even need my binoculars to see the small sliver of smoke creating a shadow in the early sun's light. In 185 days, it's only the second time we've seen a potential fire. For those of you who don't know what a fire watch tower looks like, it's basically a wooden cabin, elevated about 100 feet in the air. Ours has a staircase that wraps around the structure beneath the cabin. I'm pretty sure other towers use ladders, but that's besides the point. Clark and I bunk up in the watchtower. We have a small little kitchen, our bunk bed, and a 360-degree view of nothing but woods. Thomas sleeps in the tiny little cabin at the base of our tower, which is also where our main office is. Office may be too loose of a term. It's one desk and a typewriter used for typing out reports of what we see out here. I rubbed my eyes and looked over to Clark. Alright then, let's go check it out. No way, Teddy. Are you crazy? He replied immediately. Clark has been afraid to go out past the outhouse since day 180 passed. He's afraid that a helicopter will come, and he'll miss his chance to be rescued. Rescued, Clark would say. But are we in danger? Did we miscalculate the number of days we've been out here? We still have plenty of food. Did they forget about us? Has the apocalypse come and gone and we don't know because we've been so isolated? Okay, fine, you big baby, I said. Radio down to Thomas and let him know. He should be awake by now. Our main radio back to base isn't getting any sign of life from anywhere. And if it isn't receiving from anywhere, we assume that we aren't being heard from anywhere. Luckily, we still have our own short-range walkie-talkies to communicate with each other. Clark took out his walkie. The crackling static filled the tower before he pressed the button. Tom! Hey Tom! There's some smoke about a mile southeast. Can you go check it out? A few seconds passed before Thomas responded.
After I finish wiping my ass, I'll go check it out. Unless you want to come down here and help me with that, Clarky?
Thomas, the oldest of us, was always picking on Clark, the youngest. He doesn't really dislike Clark, it's just he's easy to pick on. He's a 23-year-old college dropout. I think he studied accounting or finance or something on his parents' dime. I don't think he left college to be a professional fire watcher. No, I think he left to come out into the wilderness, to be alone, and to take a retrospective look at his life to decide what he really wants to do. You only sign up for 180 days of isolation if you're crazy, or if you want to get away from something. I'm not too sure which category Thomas falls in. He's a cryptic brute of a man. His picture is probably in the dictionary next to lumberjack. He's pretty quiet unless he has a joke to tell or something important to say. Either way, when he opens his mouth, I listen. As for me, well, it's not really important why I'm out here.
Heading out now, Clarky,
Thomas radioed. Clark and I watched Thomas begin his trek into the tree line until we could no longer see him. Clark cocked his head towards mine. Teddy, he said to me, Thomas has been acting different, weird. I didn't expect him to be so blunt, but I had noticed as well. I knew Clark was aware of it, but this was the first time we actually spoke about it. I'm aware, I replied curtly. He doesn't seem to be bothered that we're stuck out here, Clark mentioned. We don't know if we are stuck out here. We could have scratched the dates off wrong. You know, like we thought we didn't scratch a day off yet, but we really did. So we accidentally scratched off the next day too, I reasoned. Yeah, I guess, Clark said softly. I knew what he was going to say next. At night, though, he whispered. Would you give it a rest, Clark? Come on, Teddy. It's messed up. He's fine during the day and then just, what, changes? Does he have some type of an illness? It happens so suddenly. Maybe he does. So what if the guy goes out at night to stare at trees? I joked. Trees? Stare at trees? Clark questioned. I know you've seen it. He goes out near the tree line and stands there for a while looking out. Sometimes for hours. Maybe he does have a screw loose, and maybe he shouldn't be out here. But I don't think it's the best idea to bring it up to him when we are trapped out here with him, especially if he is insane. Silence fell between us before Clark responded. I didn't know he stares out at the forest, he said to me in a soft voice, and eyes wider than when he woke up this morning. Oh. Wait, what? What were you going to say? At night, he stammered. He comes up the stairs. I looked over to our half-open door leading out into the staircase, letting a cool breeze in. What? What? He comes up the stairs and just looks at us, stares at us through the windows. Thomas left to go check out the smoke about an hour ago. The smoke seems to have vanished, so I figured he handled it. Clark spends his days using our walkie-talkies, trying every station possible to alert anyone nearby. I just watch the forest. It's 11:30 p.m. Thomas isn't back. He left at about 7 a.m. He hasn't answered his radio. Tomorrow will be day 186. We do not know if Thomas is okay. And one of us will more than likely have to go check the woods tomorrow. And since Clark is a big old scaredy cat, it'll probably end up being me. More disturbing, though, is what Clark told me a few minutes ago. And it's the reason I went down to the office to type this. I was leaned back in the swivel chair, spinning slowly, making sure there were no lights or fires in the dark expanse of trees, and wondering where Thomas was. He must have been hurt. Even if he was lost, he'd reply on his walkie. Clark stopped my chair mid-spin and mid-thought. Before I could protest and ask what the hell he was doing, he spoke. Listen, I need to tell you something I've been thinking about recently. It's eating away at me. I wondered if this had to do with Thomas. Okay, Clark, I said. I'm all ears. Look, it's going to sound crazy, he warned. I bet I've heard crazier, I said, trying to put him at ease. He took a long yet stuttered inhale, then spoke. I don't remember coming out here. My facial expression didn't change, and it looked like he was waiting for a reaction, so he repeated what he said once more. I don't remember coming out here. Do you? Do you remember applying for this job? Do you remember being interviewed? Or even being flown out here? At first, I was almost amused. Then, as he asked those questions, I froze. I didn't remember. He continued. You know how I said I decided to leave college? Well, now that I'm thinking about it harder, I don't know if I did.
I mean, I must have, right? To be out here? I must have. But all I can remember is my last day of class for the semester. And then I was here. I don't remember anything between coming home after class and meeting you and Thomas.
I was listening to Clark, but it probably didn't show. I was still, expressionless, motionless. I couldn't remember coming out here. I've tried, and I'm still trying. Thomas is missing in the woods. Clark and I are losing our minds or something else. Either way, I can't explain it yet. There are more pages scattered about, but I haven't figured out the order yet. Some are ripped, and some are faded beyond recognition. But there is a more pressing and imminent problem at hand. About 30 minutes ago, I met Gary and Harold. We have been stationed out here for the next 180 days. I don't know whether or not to tell them about what I found. And I don't know whether or not to tell them that I don't remember coming out here.
Evan always loved the wilderness. It was his escape from a life that never quite felt like his own. He had been hopping from one dead-end job after another, failed relationships, and a nagging sense of unease in crowded places. When he came across the opportunity to be a fire watcher in a remote forest outpost, it seemed like the perfect chance to start fresh. There would be no people, no distractions, just nature and solitude. The fire tower was a small, creaky structure in the middle of an expansive, isolated forest. A few days' walk to the nearest town, miles from anyone or anything. He arrived late in the afternoon, the sun casting long shadows over the sea of trees. The air was cool, the silence thick, broken only by the occasional rustling of leaves or the distant cry of an animal. He felt at peace. On his first day, Evan did the routine check. Radio worked, supplies were stocked, and the view from the tower was breathtaking. The forest stretched endlessly in every direction, the perfect place for someone who needed to be alone. Upon finishing up his tasks for the day, he prepared to settle. Randomly, one thing caught his attention, a dusty, old, leather-bound journal sitting on a shelf by the bed. Curious, he picked it up. The cover was worn, the pages yellowed with age. A note was scribbled inside the front cover in shaky handwriting.
For whoever takes my place, may this serve as a warning. Keep watch, but never trust what you see.
The journal belonged to the previous fire watcher, a man named Harrison Wade. As Evan flipped through the pages, he was struck by how detailed the entries were. The first few weeks were fairly mundane. Reports of smoke in the distance, occasional wildlife encounters, and the challenges of living in isolation. But as he read further, the tone of the journal changed. Harrison's entries became more erratic, more paranoid.
21st January. At night I went in the woods, suspecting some smoke, but I saw something strange, something wrong. It looked like a deer at first, but its eyes looked too human, too knowing. 24th of January. There's definitely something in the woods. I can hear it at night, whispering incomprehensible things. I've tried reporting on the radio, but I'm not getting any response. Strange.
Evan's stomach tightened. The more he read, the more unhinged Harrison seemed to become. He spoke of figures watching him from the tree line, their forms shifting between man and animal. A few times he wrote about seeing his mother calling for help, his brother badly injured, and even mentioned in an entry about hearing his deceased close friend. And then there was the mention of others.
2nd February. The other fire watchers. I saw them today. They came to check in on me, or so they said, but they didn't seem too human. Not anymore. skins stretched too tight over their bones, smiles too wide, too forced. They walk like us, talk like us, but they're not us. I can't leave. They won't let me.
Evan felt a chill crawl up his spine. He had met a few of the other fire watchers in passing during his orientation at the ranger station. A small group stationed in towers scattered throughout the forest. They all seemed perfectly normal, even friendly, but according to Harrison's journal, they were something else entirely, something inhuman. The next entry was even worse.
4th February. Last night, I saw the man in the tower across the valley. He was standing on the edge, staring at me. Just standing there for hours, unmoving. And then he jumped. But when I checked with the binoculars this morning, he was back in the tower, staring again. No one survives a fall like that.
Evan put the journal down, feeling a knot of unease twist in his gut. Was this just the ramblings of a man who had lost his mind in isolation, or was there something more to it? He didn't want to believe it, but the journal made him feel like he wasn't quite alone. That night, he tried to sleep, but every creak of the tower set his nerves on edge. At one point, around midnight, he thought he heard something outside. A faint whispering carried on the wind. He brushed it off as his mind playing tricks on him, a byproduct of reading the journal too late into the evening. But the next day, the unease only grew. From the tower, Evan could see the nearest firewatch tower about a few miles away. He hadn't noticed it before, but now he saw it clearly, just a dark silhouette against the endless green of the forest. It was empty, or so he thought. That afternoon, through his binoculars, he saw movement, a man, standing on the balcony of the distant tower, staring in his direction. Evan watched for a while, unsettled by how still the figure was. He waved, but the man didn't respond, just kept staring. After a few minutes, Evan lowered the binoculars and tried to shake off the strange feeling gnawing at him. What's up with this guy, he thought. Later that evening, the radio crackled to life.
How's it going out there?
A voice asked, one of the fire watchers he'd met during orientation. Peter, he thought, a friendly, casual voice. Evan responded, trying to keep his voice steady.
Quiet, nothing much to report. How about you?
Peter's voice came through again.
Same here, just keeping watch. You're doing great, by the way.
The conversation felt ordinary enough, but as the night wore on, Evan couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The voice sounded like Peter, but flat, hollow. There was no warmth in it, just the words themselves, as if someone was mimicking Peter. That night, as Evan lay in bed, the whispering returned, louder this time. He tried to tell himself it was the wind, but it sounded like voices, several of them, whispering just below the edge of his hearing, too low to understand, but insistent. He covered his ears, squeezed his eyes shut, and eventually drifted off to an uneasy sleep. In the morning, the man in the distant tower was gone. The tower looked like it was abandoned. Evan's anxiety grew over the next few days. The journal consumed him. Every entry seemed to pull him deeper into Harrison's madness. The whispering persisted at night, and he swore he saw movement in the forest below, dark shapes flitting between the trees. One night, he glanced out the window and saw figures standing at the edge of the forest, just barely visible in the moonlight. He grabbed his binoculars, but when he looked again, they were gone. The final entry in the journal was dated a week before Evan had arrived.
February 27th. They're coming up the tower, all of them. They look like fire watchers, but they're not. They're waiting for me. I can't stay here anymore. I won't become one of them.
Evan's heart raced. What had happened to Harrison? He flipped the page, but the rest of the journal was blank. That night, as Evan lay in bed, the radio crackled again. The same voice as before.
You're doing a great job, Evan. Just stay focused.
Evan swallowed hard. His throat was dry.
Thanks,
he replied. There was a pause. Then Peter's voice spoke again, a little too casually.
You've been reading that old journal, haven't you?
Evan's blood ran cold. He hadn't mentioned the journal to anyone. He didn't answer. The voice on the radio chuckled softly, a low, unsettling sound.
Don't worry. We all read it eventually.
The radio went silent. Evan sat frozen in his chair, the weight of dread pressing down on him. The whispering outside grew louder. As he sat there thinking about the events going on lately, had he been losing his mind? Or is it an effect of being so isolated? He eventually thought about the conversations with Peter, how he was the only one who radios him timely. Fear gripped Evan, a shiver running through him. One single thought had kept him at unease. Peter always said the same things each time he called up on the radio. He doubted his own mind. Was he really going crazy? Or something is definitely wrong with this place? His hand trembled as he picked up the binoculars and looked toward the distant fire tower again. The man was standing on the railing of the watchtower. He wasn't still like the last time, but mirrored his movements. Evan finally lowered the binoculars. He saw the horrifying truth reflected in the cracked glass of the window. He was the one standing outside the tower, staring in at himself. The whispering grew deafening. The figure then jumped off the tower.